dictionary like Jaroslav Cherny, when you look at that book and then you see the derivation of those words in Middle Egyptian, you see the links. And it's very easy to see what's going on, and it's very easy to see the stable consonant strings that led to why we translate vocabulary the way we do. So, when you look at a code like this language can be learned by anyone, but the reason why we do this, and why Sheikh Anta Diop did this, and why Carruthers did this, and why Theophilo Benga did this, is that a language carries your history, your culture, your identity. It carries an alternative view of your reality. So when you are able to immerse yourself and embed yourself into the language, any sacred language of your ancestors, you are not just learning the language, you are learning a new way of being in the world. You're learning about an African way of being and existing in the world. That's what you're ultimately learning. And if you want to build a new world, you have to understand the reality that you want to build. Like, you can't replace Trump's America with another Trump.
No doubt, yeah.
Like, what is the world that you want to build, that you want to see for your children? What are the things, what are the principles, what are the values that you're going to build that world on?
What are the guiding philosophies?
It's not just about resistance, although we need to resist. It's about excellence and marshaling that African excellence in every walk of life to bring to bear on the destiny that we seek for ourselves and our project. So when we are looking at African civilizations, when we are studying this on a systematic level, that's what we're attempting to reveal. The complexity of our own humanity as it manifests in time and space. And so we do this, and there's a long genealogy of African scholars that have done this. And now we're at the point now where, to answer this question, is that my teacher, Dr. Obenga, would tell me, I quote you when I need you.
Okay.
And what he meant by that is that Dr. Obenga has knowledge of multiple African languages. He has knowledge of Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Italian, German, French, Spanish, all of the Romance languages and African languages. He has complete command of that world. And so when he goes into text, he is able to have a unique, empowered, and unfettered conversation with ancestors that is unmediated by European eyes and interpreters. That's power. I quote you when I need you. So you look at his books, you look at African philosophy, the Pharaonic period, and you see what is his methodology. His methodology is clearly to lay out his interpretation, to lay out primary text, to lay out what those words mean, and then to lay out how it compares to other African cultures. And he's doing it on his own. That's his method in everything. And so you can only do that if you know it all. And so, understand the skill, the time, the pain that it took to craft a book like that. We're just reading it as if it's pages.
Yeah.
But when you look at that book, it's magical. It's majesty, pure majesty. To read that type of book. Because if you know what I know about this language, what it took to do that, it's absolutely phenomenal. So we are training a generation now in ASCAP and other venues and on the continent. This language, the teaching of this language is on even a more serious level at the University of Sheikh Anta Diop in Dakar, Senegal. They have a whole area of Egyptology. And they're producing doctoral students in this area. And they are systematically comparing Kemet to other African civilizations. You know, and so Sheikh Anta Diop has left seeds in his home. You know, Babakar Sall, Abu Bakr Musalam, and many others. He's left seeds, and those seeds have grown over time, and now they're training the next generation. But those seeds are everywhere. You know, Jonathan Clark and Yosef Ben Yaakman, they planted seeds in the soil of the United States. Jacob Carruthers has planted seeds. Now those seeds are coming to fruition in the next generation, which is us. And now when we're training a generation, we train an army of African people, because once you are armed with this language and other African languages, Obinna would always say is that one of the reasons why we have to teach this language is because we have to empower people to bring their own expertise to the language. That means that I may know Middle Egyptian, but I may not know architecture.
Right. There was a brother.
I may know Middle Egyptian, but I may not know music.
Yeah.
So when you learn this languages or African languages, you bring your expertise to that reality, and it makes you more sensitive to the dynamics in that particular area that you're investigating. And so it makes your analysis much more dynamic.
I was looking at a brother talk about his specialty is art, and how the ancient Egyptians used negative space is what he called it.
Absolutely, color accepts all of those things.
Yeah,
all of those
and
things.
that was his specialty.
Yeah, they want to be more sensitive to those things that I could be, you know, although I know the language.
I see you.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Hey, I gotta take this back and process, because I see why I'm so enthralled with your presentation. Everybody felt it. I felt it again. I definitely got to brush up again, because I took it. Yeah, and appreciate you clearing up a lot of things for us and how you explaining to us the connection and the importance that learning that you're learning about ancient Egypt and learning its connection to Africa and to African Americans, and how we can look back to the greatness and to the accomplishments of our African ancestors and what they implemented inside their systems to bring forth a new day for us.
Absolutely.
So you clarified that a bit more for brothers and sisters that need to know. And I would like to thank you very much. Hope to speak again, and we'll see where this goes.
Hey, absolutely. And, you know, I'm the president of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations.
Okay.
And this is what we do. And so it's not just me. There are a lot of us, you know, who are engaged in this serious, sacred work. And I invite, you know, your audience, I invite you to come to ASPAC, to come to our conferences. This year we'll be at Dillard University, to come and sit at the feet of elders, you know, to come and be in conversation with other African people. And we debate, we discuss, sometimes we fight, go back and forth on little small interpretations, but it's all good, it's all love, but people, you gotta bring your evidence, you gotta bring your evidence, you gotta bring your assertions, you gotta give your demonstration. As Dr. Obinna would say, that when you give a math problem, I wanna see your demonstration,
Right.
And I wanna see your final answer, I wanna see your demonstration. How did you get to the final answer? Absolutely. So proof, So all of those things are important, and all of these conversations, these debates, they help us grow. They help us grow and develop, as a community, at the end of the day,
Yes.
And so if your heart is in the right place, and if your heart is pure, and that means that if you're in this for the collective liberation of African people, and not for yourself, if your heart is pure, then you engage in this process for us to try to get it right. And it's not for us to, attempt to say, this is it and this is not it. It's not, it's more of a conversation
Like
of,
conversation.
absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's about clarity, and all of these things can help us to get to that point. But also, it's about giving people right information, and the best information that we have, and so much of this information is about that. And so that means that African scholars, we're at a point now where we're training a generation of scholars where we can have a conversation with our ancestors, and we don't need to quote European scholars, We don't need to cite them as experts or authorities.
So they don't
absolutely, they don't have to know. You don't have to quote Budge anymore.
Right.
Budge is, people that use Budge are just, that's because Budge has cheap Dover publications that have proliferated for generations, and it's far outdated. Egyptologists knows this, everyone knows this. But sometimes it can be useful, sometimes a dictionary can be useful. That's if you know how to use it, and most of the times, a lot of times people really don't. And so if you did just one little homework assignment, and if you just looked at Budge's Egyptian grammar book, and I think he wrote this, I want to say in 1911 or something like that. People that tried to learn Egyptian grammar through Budge would have had to use his Egyptian grammar book to do it. No one could ever learn Egyptian grammar through that book. It would be a complete brick wall. You would hit a complete brick wall. You would know nothing with that grammar book. So, and it really calls into question how serious he took the language. Meaning that his method wasn't just like translating vocabulary, and just trying to put a pastiche together almost, as opposed to any real method and deep sense of how things connect, So the same method, Budge's method is not Gardner's method. It's on a much more firmer footing. But like I said, there have been advances, and there's always debate inside Egyptology in terms of grammatical theory. So they're still debating those issues. Grammars are changing with subtleties. Sometimes, like James Allen, the book that I use in my class, he's changed his grammar theory from the first volume to now. From when it first came out to the third edition, from the first edition to the third edition. So that's what I'm saying. It's not, these things are still, a lot of these questions are still debatable. But what's not debatable is that this is a language that can be understood relatively easily if you have the tools and want to spend the time in order to do it.
Much love. Peace, respect.
Absolutely right.
Always a blessing for having you.
Yes, sir.
Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters.
Dr. Baby.